I'm running out of time. I'm running out of feeling so. I'm running out of time.
And now, it's all on the save to play a heroic.
Well, it is the final Playday for OCN, Playday number 7, and we've left the best until last, that is for sure. Some banging games tonight, guys, as we close out this stage.
Yeah, it has been a really exciting season of, a stage rather, of Oceanic Nationals. Can't wait to jump into this final player day. I know that a lot of people in OCE are going through a pretty rough time, particularly here in Australia at the moment, so hopefully we
Mate,
can
have you
put
seen
on
my hair?
an entertaining show. I mean, it looks like you haven't got a haircut in 3 months, mate, so I don't know if you can blame lockdown completely on that, but yeah, it's a valid excuse, I guess.
I don't think I've been out of the house for about 3 months. Let's go and look at the standings, of course, and see how things are shaping up. Coming into the final Playday, it is pretty close for the most part in the middle section of the standings, guys. The top and the bottom, well, that's pretty much sorted.
Well, is the top sorted? We still have a battle for first place tonight between Bliss and Chiefs. Potentially the Chiefs could jump into that first place
No,
spot.
that's actually not an updated standings.
Isn't it? What?
No, Bliss should be first.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. So yeah, let's just completely ignore this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bliss are locked in. I don't know what I'm on about because they're on 17 points basically in the standings. So yeah. Anyway, but Rofl and Wildcard, we know that they are fighting it out most definitely to make it into that gauntlet. That's for sure.
Yeah. I really, really don't want to throw production under the bus here, but what I will try and do is convey where everything is actually located. Now, the top 4, guys, is the same, right? Like, it's the same 4 teams. Yep. It's just the points that are basically a little bit different. And then, most importantly, Roflcopter, Wildcard, switch them around going into tonight. Rofl's in 6th, Wildcard's in 5th. But they play each other, so it doesn't really matter anyway, guys, right? Let's go look at the schedule, and this will actually make things a little bit easier to sort of understand where things currently lay. Rofl versus Wildcard, it's pretty simple. You've got to win this game, full stop, in regulation, if you are Roflcopter. An overtime win won't even be enough. They have to get all 3 points if they are to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They are trailing by 2 heading into tonight, so unfortunately, if they only get the 2 in overtime with a win, Wildcard will sneak 1 and still stay ahead in 5th place. So yes, must win for Rofl, and it must be in regulation. As for the remaining matches, the next 2 will sort of determine the order of the gauntlet. All of those teams fighting it out to try and elevate themselves into the standings, keeping in mind that Bliss have in fact confirmed their first place position, so they are well and truly locked into the grand final. And then the final match of the day is LFO and Rhythm, and unfortunately that match doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, because both of those teams are locked into the bottom of the standings basically at this point. There is an opportunity for LFO to potentially drop Roflcopter, but that will be dependent on the result of the first match.
I think for LFO, it's about closing out the season, getting 3 wins, 9 points, and having a pretty, decent stage overall. For Rhythm, of course, they'll be looking to find their first win of the stage. Let's get to the predictions. We've got the 2 best predictors in the business off the back of the APAC South regular season closing up yesterday. Of course, number 1 here to my right, and then, of course, number 2 here. And who's leading in OCN, guys?
I think it's
me and you.
The 2 best looking casters. I'm pretty sure that's us. So
that's
yeah,
for sure.
That's looking really exciting. But we've actually gone different on 2 matches, and I don't know what that means in terms of if anyone else can catch up to us. But I would assume that is very viable. So both Order and the Knights shaping up to be a close one based on our opinions, and then Bliss and Chiefs also pretty evenly split across the board. So yes, matches 2 and 3 again don't mean necessarily a whole lot in terms of teams fighting it out to make it into the gauntlet, but they are set up to be really close matchups that are still really important as those teams are fighting to start deeper into the gauntlet format itself.
The thing that surprises me the most is the first row. everyone has gone Wildcard except for Ducky, who's gone for RoflcopterGG. I'm a little surprised it's only Ducky, though, that has gone RoflcopterGG. I don't think this is doing justice to the closeness to these two teams going into this final game. What's up for stakes? I think that it's probably not quite indicative as to how close it really is.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair assumption. I would have expected, or maybe at
One
least
or two more.
3. Yeah, to probably go for Roffle heading into this one. I know I genuinely considered them in this one. So definitely interesting to see that Wildcard is the favourites, but maybe that's justified. We saw them play really well in APAC South as of recent, and it feels like they're improving. So who knows?
The other thing as well, just quickly, Chiefs technically the underdogs to the predictors here with 3, Bliss getting the 4. If Chiefs do lose, they will drop from second place, guys, to what could very well be a 4-5 position, which is, of course, the start of the gauntlet. That means they would have to run the entire gauntlet. So a lot on the line in that particular match. Let's go back to the standings, though, as it has been updated, of course, for the 6 play days that have concluded thus far. Team Bliss still, of course, the top, and yeah, they can't be caught. They're at 17 points. And as I said, this is where it does get a little congested towards, positions 2 to 6. Chiefs, Order, Knights, Wildcard, and RoflcopterGG. Now, in terms of who can still drop out of the top 5, guys, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think the Knights can. So I think the worst that the Knights can do here is drop to 5th, which, let's be real, 4th, 5th, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, that's for sure. Ruffle do not have the head-to-head against the Knights, so the Knights, Order, Chiefs, Bliss, they're all locked in, at least in the top 4. It really is that battle between Wildcard and Ruffle. It is do or die. They're facing off against each other tonight. Ruffle must win in regulation. Wildcard can sneak away with at least 1 point.
I've just done the absolute biggest sin, which is swallowed water down the wrong pipe, and I swear I am 2 seconds away from coughing up an entire lung. Look, it's an incredible night tonight. We were very blessed with what was an amazing APAC South night, guys. Yep. This is pretty close to it. Wildcard, RoflcopterGG to kickstart it off. Got to win it. The good news for Wildcard this time, of course, which they didn't have the good news last night, is it is actually in their hands. They win, and they go through to the playoffs.
100% the faith is in their hands, and sure, maybe that adds a little bit of pressure, but it also means that they can sit back and relax for the rest of the night either way, knowing that they've made it or that they haven't made it. And the big advantage that they have going into this one is they only need 1 point. Now, of course, that's easier said than done. Ruffle are not the most difficult, or not the easiest, rather, of opponents, but looking at the Wildcard roster, we have seen, again, their continued growth, their continued improvement. It hasn't been perfect for them in this stage, but it's been a massive, massive step up from stage 1. We cannot forget just how dire things looked for this roster in the previous stage.
We had a chat with Rousty last night on the APAC South product after their victory. Of course, they did not end up getting things to go their way, so they won't be participating in the playoffs over there. But for OCN, their dream is still alive, and as we've already said, it is in their hands. And I feel like this is a team that could do some damage if they do obviously make it into the playoffs. The other thing to note, guys, is if they can get all 3 points in this particular game, puts them up to 12 points, that will be good for second place, depending then, of course, on other results to transpire tonight. I think the best that they can realistically do is probably 3rd. I'm not sure if 2nd is possible, and I don't really have the time to go over all of the little matchups. They didn't beat Order, so they don't have that tiebreaker. And they did beat Knights technically, so maybe in a world where Knights somehow win in OT, no, even that doesn't do it.
I think third,
no, 3rd is basically the best they can do. That's not too bad though. Their opponents though, RoflcopterGG, I think this is a team that has the ability to win this game. Only -1 round differential, they're not too far behind. And when you actually look at the two teams, Ruffle's had 3 wins, Wildcard's had 3 wins. They both had 3 losses. The only difference is the fact that Wildcard got a lot more done in regulation, Ruffle a little bit more in OT.
Yeah, and I would argue that the main reason Ruffle find themselves in this do-or-die situation, if you want to call it that, in this final Playday, was really their costly first Playday way back June 18, so over a month ago now, where they lost in regulation 3-7 to LFO, the team that is now below them in 7th place. Had they have won that, theoretically, heading into this, they would be very, very close to locking in that position, if not maybe confirming it, as they would have gained some nice momentum off that. So, look, they can't dwell on that. All focus, of course, will be on tonight. Ruffle have not shied away from their wild way of playing Siege, maybe a nice way of putting it. I know a lot of people find it frustrating to play against Roffle, very aggressive, quite unpredictable, and maybe Wildcard with their structural, I guess, pedigree could find themselves in some strife if Roffle play their game well.
And to be completely honest, the playoffs have started for both teams, guys. This is the thing. This is almost like the 5-6 gauntlet position, and one team moves forward into the gauntlet. So for these two teams, they're already in playoff mode. Their playoffs have begun. It's do or die. You lose, you're out. You win, you move forward into the playoffs where, you know, there's no second chances with the gauntlet format. So you have to run that entire gauntlet, which means, in essence, when you really think about it, guys, they've got to win this. Then they've got to win the 4-5 game. Then they've got to win the next one. Then the next one. Then the grand final. The path is long. And what that does do is put emphasis on doing well in the regular season, like Team Bliss have done.
Yeah, pretty unrelenting pressure for the next potential couple of days ahead for both of these teams. I would say that Wildcard in particular may have had some of their pressure alleviated, and now they can focus on OCN. Of course, off the back of last night's results, they cannot make or did not make the APAC playoffs, meaning that now all of their focus and attention can go towards OCN. Now, of course, that probably only really comes into play if they make the playoffs, because one day's difference isn't going to mean anything. They still need to win tonight, and it would have been difficult for them to prep for this match compared to their opponents. But I think looking forward, Wildcard will be in a comfortable position, again, if they do make the playoffs.
Yep. Let's go and have a look at the map, which we will be playing on. Surely it won't be Clubhouse. Come on, really? It's Coastline.
Oh, they could have gone there.
Wow, yeah, it did get right to there, but I don't think Roflcopter were going to allow that one to happen. A lot of debate and discussion has been around allowing Wildcard to get the Clubhouse. Roflcopter, don't make that mistake. I have to feel like a map like Coastline, though, should play into their hands. Roffle should be pretty happy with this veto.
Yeah, if I'm Roffle, I'd be pretty satisfied with this result. Now, I'm just looking back quickly throughout their stage to see if they've actually played this map, and no, they haven't. So that means it's a bit of an unknown quantity for Wildcard. Yes, Coastline is a little bit stale in its current meta, but it does lend into teams that are willing to play aggressive, run around the map, and get in the face of their opponents, try to deny map entry and map control, and Roffle will back themselves in purely on gun skills to try and achieve those objectives. So Wildcard could find their backs against the wall, particularly if they start an attack. I feel like they could be in for a bit of a tricky start, but either way, it sets us up for a great matchup. Wildcard, they're not short of fraggers either, so this could pop off and be a really exciting game.
And I think Coastline is a map we haven't seen too much of. I mean, that's just going off the top of my head. I'll actually go and get the numbers here. Only once, guys. Only once this entire stage have we seen Coastline. It's kind of been in the same bracket as Chalet and Villa to a degree, where we're just not really seeing them. Teams electing to go for the more staple approach of Clubhouse, Consulate, Oregon. But it is Coastline to decide the fate of Roflcopter and Wildcard. Winner moves on to the playoffs. The loser is done for stage 2 of the Oceanic Nationals. These two teams are going to give everything they've got in this match.
Now, I haven't seen the veto sheet, so I don't know what the starting sides will be, but as I briefly talked about on Reload, our podcast, I think that's going to be really important. So Wildcard, they start on the attack. Now, I don't know if you have the stats there, and it probably doesn't mean a whole lot because it's only the one matchup as to what the defensive win rate is.
3-5.
Yeah, so it really doesn't mean a whole lot. I would have thought that Wildcard would probably feel more comfortable on the defense, and again, knowing that they only need to get to the 6 rounds, that probably would have been favorable for them. Unfortunately, they don't have that comfort. That was how the veto played out. It is a coin toss, I believe, as to who gets the first ban, so that's, you know, not a tactical error by them. It's just the way that it has played out. In terms of the bans, Flores and Thatcher are the first 2 off the board. Now, you don't often see util clears completely banned out, or sometimes not banned out at all here on Coastline, because it doesn't really lend in to that utility dump playstyle. But both of these teams wanting to go for quick sweeps, it would appear, and with Valk and Mirror off the board, I think both of these teams would be quite comfortable.
I think, yeah, pretty standard ban across the board. I mean, the Flores is maybe kind of questionable in a sense, as, you know, Coastline is the kind of map where you are typically moving around a lot, but as you said, being able to clear out some of that utility is going to be impactful. But I think also at the same time, you're going to be seeing a lot of roamers and a lot of flanking sort of opportunities. You know, the Nomads on the cards here for Wildcard, so we'll see how it does play out. Wildcard, as you said, guys, they're on the attack, and for Roflcopter, they will be defending first. What are you expecting, I guess, maybe out of this particular game? Is it something where it's just going to be, I guess, round by round chaos, or do we see some sort of structure from these teams?
Look, I'm strapping myself in. The fact that we haven't seen Coastline very much here in this region, and both of these teams can play pretty explosive siege, I think it's going to be pretty wild. Both teams, I believe, will probably find it quite tricky to gain momentum, and a lot of that will likely come down to actual round length, I think, is going to vary quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if we see variance in terms of there being quite aggressive rounds from the attack, for example, where it's over quite quickly, and then others that are a little bit more drawn out. That said, I mean, it's coastline, so it's no doubt it's going to be frag heavy, and you can already see, at least from the defensive selections here from Roflcopter, they've brought both the Mute Mozzie to try and deny some of that information, suggesting that they would roam. And they've also brought 3 strong fraggers on top of that, bouncing on the Alibi, strong primary, you've got Campo, that Carbine can still do a bit of work, even post-nerf, and the MP5 in the hands of Boydie, very familiar territory.
I think it's going to be a very quick, fast game, almost as fast as the Samsung NVMe SSDs, who of course has been a wonderful presenting partner for OCN. You can check out their latest range of NVMe SSDs by simply typing !SSD in Twitch chat. Be fast, because they are fast.
Look, if either team can play as clean as that little plug, then they should win quite comfortably. That was quite impressive from Xenox, I must say. Meanwhile though, Wildcard is slowly establishing map control. Moloska heading up to the hatch. Top of bathroom, he'll pop that open and begin droning ahead for his entries. Nemorin going to be a key player in this round, and if he sticks the Nomad for the rest of the remaining attacks, those air jabs should help in reducing some of the roamability here from the defense. And as you can see, a very aggressive extension outside of the objective from Roffle.
And while we haven't actually seen too much coastline recently in OCN, only the one game played, we have noticed that sort of the meta that has been evolving over the last few months is that real aggressive nature from the defense, trying to find those opening picks, trying to make it very difficult for the attackers to even get inside. And we see that now with the opening pick going to Bouncin, who has been a menace for RoflcopterGG. Amarin taken off the board. That's going to be the Nomad eliminated. And it's hard to gauge too much off what is essentially going to be this first half. Even if you get a 4-2 half in favor of Roffle or a 4-2 half in favor of Wildcard, it will be difficult to ascertain as to the advantages or how this match is going to play out. This is going to be a game where we really need to see both halves before we can understand how it's going to play out.
Wildcard starting to gain map control, but it is slow goings for them. Geo does have a bit of a foothold here inside of Kitchen, but OJ aggressively holding that at the bottom of the Cool Vibe stairs. Air jab pops off top white. Again, Wildcard need to be mindful of that flank, but Bouncin just ready and waiting to maybe sweep through. Boydie as well there to assist inside of lobby. Roffle looking very comfortable at the moment. Wildcard not really applying pressure to these roamers. That might be the idea, but Vinny does get the first for his team, and that's Boydie off the board.
That's a big player too. Boydie's the kind of fragger who can get some kills. OJ just spotting ahead inside a Kitchen. It's Geo. He's able to get out with his head still on his shoulders, and he takes off OJ's in response. Just under 30 seconds remaining in the opening round of this deciding match, and now Wildcard are just starting to gain some momentum. Bouncin notices the vault in. Nice headshot onto Geo. Knows where one player is, and he catches Vinny. 3 for the round for Bouncin as Pat will get this diffuser down. Moloska, though, through the comms, knows that Bouncin is coming. And Campo in a 1 versus 2 gets shut down immediately. Wildcard take the opening round.
A good little cleanup from Milo there in the post plant. Finds 2. It was a dangerous flank there from Bouncin. Again, with those air jabs already deployed and expended by the defense. And it meant that they were quite vulnerable, and I guess they didn't have a drone watching that particular flank. And if they did, they couldn't quite match the sharpness of the Alibi. As you can see, Wildcard with their hands busy trying to get that plant down and covering that as well as the flank, proving to be a little bit too much, but some really clean shots from Milo there with the L8 to close out the round. And sure, it was a little bit of a slow start there, a bit of a wind-up attack from Wildcard, but they made it work.
Yeah, and that's obviously where it comes down to just having the numbers, right? It's sort of 4v2 scenario. Someone like Bouncin can push through Kitchen, find 2 kills, but then his position's given away. And someone like Milo knows exactly where he is, where he's going to be pushing out from. He can easily get that kill in response. And that was basically the difference then in the end, right? Like, just he was not really going to be able to get more than that. Pat got the diffuser down, so it was still going to be Wildcard's round. They had to work for it though, guys. They really did. I mean, RoflcopterGG got off to a pretty good start. Bouncin got that opening pick. They had the 5-on-4 advantage. But from there, Wildcard were able to just very slowly and methodically get that map control, sweep through, and be able to start finding some picks late into the round. I mean, it was like the last 40 seconds when things started to really pop off.
if that attacking approach is any indication for future rounds, we'd probably expect Wildcard to go for a bedroom sweep here, gain control of Master, Theater, VIP, etc., and work their way across the map, as opposed to maybe directly hitting from Hookah Balk or Aqua Balk. And talk about Aqua Balk, Boydie thinks about it, but he is unfortunately a little bit too slow.
And that's what you expect from Rolfcopter, though, on the defense, is any chance that they can get to find any sort of run out or any sort of peak to get that opening kill, to get that advantage. So important on a map like Coastline. The less attackers roaming around, the better. OJ, that's a cheeky little angle. Wildcard will just take their time, though, happily. They're not going to rush the early goings of these rounds so that they don't lose those players, so they're not at that significant disadvantage.
And the way that
Sweep through cleanly.
And I was just about to say, and the way Roffle are extending the way they are slowly pushing Wildcard back and reducing their ability to take the map control, but they are very vulnerable to trades, and we saw a perfect example of that. Front lobby, Bouncin does get a pick, but then it's a free retrade there from Molosco over towards White Stairs, and that's the sort of playstyle that I'm sure Wildcard were anticipating heading into this matchup, so it seems like they are ready for it, but it is going to be unrelenting. Boydie back in lobby as well, and it's up to Wildcard to try and mind their flanks. Again, with Emo falling, means that no air jabs will be necessarily available if they haven't already been placed.
Boydie just quietly making his way through main lobby. Oh, from behind now. That was close. Although it looks like he has been spotted some way, shape, or form. They will be able to flush him out. Pat from the rooftops gets that kill onto Boydie. Off to a bit of a slow start. Along with Emerin, those two, both 0-2 to start off inside the first 2 rounds. Minute left, advantage for Wildcard, 4 versus 3.
Oh, Pat! Oh no, get off your drone! Oh, the timing there from Pat, unfortunate. He has gotten those X-Cars deployed onto the drinks wall, though, making that position very difficult to hold, and it does make Wildcard feel a little bit more comfortable now if they want to go for a default A plan. It means that no one can sit drinks and swing wide and deny it. Vinny elsewhere drops OJ, leaves Campo and Hotshot in the 2v4. They have a Nitro Cell to work with, but it probably won't be enough.
So far, really clean from Wildcard. Go for the default plan. Pat taken very low. Hot shot with the Nitro Cell elimination onto Molosca. And things just started to fall apart here for Wildcard towards the final hurdle. They just can't get this plant down at all. Geo pushing forward. Knows there's one coming from Cool Vibes, and he got that kill immediately. Now they've got the advantage versus Campo, who still has a bit of health here. He can swing out. Oh, perfectly timed from Campo, well positioned. 5 seconds left here. You've got to swing and get this kill. I don't think he's going to be able to find it. Campo played that perfectly. And Rolfcopter tie up the score, 1-1.
Ooh, good composure there in the plant scenario there from Roffle to be able to clutch that one out. Well played by Campo, but it was a little bit messy there from Wildcard. They looked a little bit lost as they tried to get that plant down, and Geo trying to cover it whilst prone was a pretty fatal error. Unfortunately, not all of the rotations and all of the angles could be accounted for, which made life very, very challenging. I think in hindsight, Wildcard probably would have been happy to try and go for the picks. That said, I know Pat was one shot, which complicated things, and honestly, Geo was incredibly close. Campo was literally 5 to 10 HP when he got that final kill. So very much a coin flip on that occasion, and Roffle win out.
Need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Yeah, the big difference maker there was Hot Shot down below. Wildcard didn't, I guess, quite get that control from below to make sure that they could push in and get that plant down safely. That ended up really undoing it. Rolfcopter over to Kitchen for this 3rd round here on Coastline. If you've only just tuned in, this is do or die, final play day of the regular stage. The winner will move on to the playoffs. The loser will go home. For Wildcard, though, they do only have to get to 6 rounds. Anything in OT is good enough for them.
First Kitchen defense here from Roffle off the back of their successful hookah and billiards attempt. We're going to see a pretty traditional extension up above, and again, remembering that both Flores and Thatcher have been banned out, that should be a little bit stronger than it typically would be, where Thatcher sometimes sneaks through, and definitely anticipated the Flores to make it through as well. So we'll have to see if Wildcard actually intend to contest that. So far, their early pathing suggests that they want to go for an office, the blue sort of take, maybe take security as well. But oh, that's fought with danger. Campo reads into it, and from the hatch, we'll get the opener.
And that's 3 rounds in a row now, Carls, where we're seeing Roflcopter finding these opening picks. Didn't quite work out well for them in the first round. Of course, Wildcard got that one pretty convincingly in the end, but that second round, again, it just continues to help that Roffle always have this little advantage. 5 versus 4 this time as well. Doesn't get immediately traded back like that second round, where it was at least a 4 versus 4 immediately afterwards. Roffle are playing well though, and they very much look up for the task, and they're not shying away from the moment here, which is a do or die match.
Wildcard committing to the horizontal sweep here, and at least not yet wanting to contest up above. They've got a nice foothold now over towards the likes of Blue and Sunrise Bar, and means that Cool Vibes cannot be rotated around by defense, but it does leave lobby as a potential rotation point, and again does forfeit above the objective where lines of sight have already been established down below. OJ contests. OJ connects, and that's Milo off the board.
That's a big pick. Morska, of course, has been a stalwart for Wildcard this stage. Imarin, though, does get the trade. It just keeps Wildcard in this particular round, 3 versus 4. Imarin going to start to get out those air jabs. Pat low, though. Bouncing from above inside of VIP. Campo as well with him. Man can try and deny this, but they don't have quite the information. Doesn't matter. Nitrocell is all that is needed from Hotshot. Pat exploded. 2 versus 4, under a minute left. This was very difficult for Vinny and Imarin.
Vinny still contesting lobby, but hits a sharp shot there onto Boydie. That could be the in that his team needed. Imarin needs to try and link up, try and find a pick as well to get it on the 2v2. Hotshot has been isolated inside of Kegs, but Hotshot still wins the fight, leaving Vinny all alone.
Yeah, and there's 2 above, though. I mean, even if Vinny does get this player inside of service, there's still 2 players above, under 30 seconds left. Fuser inside of Kitchen. This is really impossible as it can get for Vinny. And it will mean Roflcopter do go 2-1 up
15 seconds left.
in this do-or-die match. Good start here, especially on the defense for Coastline. He will just pad his stats a little bit. But Hotshot, watching and waiting in the wings, gives Roflcopter the 2-1 lead.
A little bit of a desperation play there from Wildcard in that round, trying to plant the bomb over towards the stoves or the sink or however bazillion different callouts there are for that different location. And that was a bit of a homage to sort of like 2018, 2019 meta here on Coastline, where that was the default plant. Sharp shot from OJ in that round, which unfortunately for Wildcard put them in that uncomfortable position where they went for the send and it didn't quite work out. It was well played by Roffle. Their extension clearly quite strong, and Wildcard not wanting to contest it.
10 seconds left.
It's hard to sort of gauge which... It feels like an arm wrestle right now in the first couple of rounds. I mean, the biggest difference is the fact that Roflcopter are finding all the opening picks. Wildcard need to be able to deal with that. Being able to get inside a little bit safer, a little bit cleaner, and then get into their stuff where they're starting to sweep and roam around and clear things out without being a man down. Yeah, in round 2, they got the immediate trade in main lobby, but that was about it. Round 1, round 3, Roffle were able to maintain that advantage for a little bit longer than Wildcard would have liked. So that's something that they do need to overcome with just a couple more rounds in this first half. I think if Roffle can get to at least 3 rounds here on the defense for Coastline, they should be pretty happy with that. Anything else is going to be a bonus.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Another blue bar sunrise rather attempt here from Roffle, and once again they are bringing that mute Mozzie combo to try and deny some of the information gathering here from Wildcard, who are finding it difficult on these entries to get picks. And I mean, dropping a pick early into the round and dropping the first often isn't necessarily completely disastrous, but it's mainly the fact that they're not immediately trading it out. In fact, they are hardly trading it out at all, which is putting them in these pretty precarious positions where it's slowing down their attacks. It's forcing them to be a little bit more cautious and methodical, and it is costing them in the end. So hopefully for Wildcard, they can be a little bit cleaner here. And if they can get the entry, that would be a bonus.
Yeah, but this is the mindset of Roflcopter. That sort of Nitrocell from bouncing goes out. think he got shot from Vinny because we didn't hear the explosion. But that's what you come to expect from Roflcopter, right? They are so aggressive, always finding those picks, and they're being rewarded for it so far in this match. Mosca, though, now making his way in, along with Imarin. And this is much better from Wildcard, though, guys. Under 2 minutes, but they haven't lost a player. Never mind. Immediately, as I was about to praise them, they lose Moloska. Vinny starts to get aggressive. I don't know why. He walks out, bounce, and takes the easy kill. It's a 2-man advantage for Roflcopter.
Imarin tries to find an angle desperately, but Bouncing ready and waiting to pounce upon that opportunity. I think someone from Wildcard really needs to go towards the main door and maybe try and pressure him out a little bit more, but Rofl converging more on this position, trying to make sure that he can stay alive behind lobby. Geo, meanwhile, tries to enter service, but he'll be contested inside of kitchen.
Bouncing is just popping off right now, has been an impact player in every round. In every 4 rounds that we have played so far. 6-3-1, continues to roam, but he loses the battle to Geo. A much-needed little win there for Wildcard. He'll get a second. Imarin got third elsewhere on the map. 3 versus 2 now in favor of Wildcard. How quickly things can change in the game of Siege. Well, at one moment, it's looking like Roflcopter are kind of running away with the round, but then Wildcard push in. They get a couple of picks, and suddenly they got the man advantage. And suddenly, with under 40 seconds left, there's a chance they can tie it up. Imarin is looking good right now in this game, and Wildcard should be able to make this 2-2.
Campo, though, looking to make a play, drops Geo, leaves it in the 1v2, and manages to scathe away, but he can't hit the second shot. It's Pat on the Hibana to close it out, and it was a good recovery effort from Wildcard.
That's what it was. It was a recovery. They were down 2 players early. Very early on. But that's the nature of Coastline as well. The map is so open, it's still very difficult, even in a 3 versus 5 scenario, guys. Those 3 have still got a lot of opportunities and a lot of, pathways in being able to bring it back. And that's what they did. They didn't panic. They didn't overplay their hand. You find 1 pick, suddenly 3 versus 4 is not that bad. And then they got like 3 inside of 5 seconds. Wildcard win the round. 2-2. 2 rounds to go in the first half. We head over to Hookah and Billiards.
Yeah, it was a little bit frustrating watching Rofl, I guess, wither away that advantage that they had gained so early. Maybe looking to make too many plays there on the flank. Now, obviously, it's really entertaining, and I love the intent for them to try and get aggressive, close out rounds decisively. But giving away a couple of picks like that, going for flanks that probably weren't warranted, did unfortunately put them in a position where Kitchen was then pressured. That was traded out, and already that was equalizing the man advantage that they had obtained. So, yes, Rofl, again, we expect them to play aggressive. We love when they play aggressive, and they know what they're doing inside the server. I'm not here to be, their dad or their coach or anything like that, but they're just going to be careful and know when to tame it in. Otherwise, we could see these leads continue to be fallen or dropped away. And that if you give Wildcard an in, they are the one team that will capitalize upon that.
It's a big game for Wildcard as well. If they lose in regulation to Roflcopter, no playoffs for APAC South, no playoffs for OCN. And then you put them in that, well, not quite relegation territory, guys, but going into Stage 3, of course, remembering Stage 1 was not ideal. If they don't make playoffs here for Stage 2, they're kind of down there in the bottom end of the standings going towards Stage 3. They will have to be careful. This is a very, very important game for both teams. And it's certainly playing like it right now. Oh, nice ping. Geo able to capitalize. That's bouncing. Eliminated nice and early. The top fragger for Roflcopter inside of the first 5 rounds. And the Wildcard, for the first time in this match, guys, they've got the opening pick.
It really has been quite an intense battle between the sharpshooters here of Geo and Bouncing. Campo as well with the clutch ability on display too. But on this occasion, it is Wildcard, as I mentioned, to gain the advantage. And now it's up to them. They have the responsibility to try and steamroll this into a round win. And in doing so, gaining a minute lead in this matchup. Now they have gained control over towards Bars, Kitchen as well, so at least below the objective they look quite comfortable, but now they need to start clearing on site, and OJ with the AUG will get the first there on to Milo, reducing, or in fact completely eliminating any frag grenades from the attack.
Minute and 30 seconds remaining in this 5th round. all important 3-round wins here. Just feel like this is going to be an arm wrestle in both halves. Whoever can get to 3 at least can have a sigh of relief going into that 6th round to close out this first half. Vertical control established here for Wildcard down below Hooker and Billiards. So still though, with a minute left, they will have to start making their way up and looking for something.
I think Wildcard are trying to clear out Cool Vibes. Now, Emo has been holding this angle for a long, long time, and I believe he has now been droned up. OJ elsewhere, though, does find his second in the round, this time with a Nitro Cell. Emo does push up, finds one with the AK-12. Could make it 2, no, but it's OJ to get a quad. And now Pat needs the clutch.
He only got the down onto Boydie. It's an ace for OJ. As cool as you like over towards Cool Vibes. And he picks up all 5 kills onto Wildcard. Roflcopter take a 3-2 lead going into the final round of this first half.
Strong showing there from OJ. Despite bouncing dropping early, they still had the frag power, and he backed himself. The AUG is such a strong primary when in the right hands, and he manages to prove it. On that occasion, the 1.5 serves him well. Roffle now with the lead in round 6. And they can try to go for another successful kitchen defense. Last time, Wildcard, they went for the horizontal sweep and they struggled to get in towards the side and get that plant down. So we'll have to see whether or not Wildcard are willing to contest that extension up above.
The Oryx 6 pick as well in the final round of this defensive half for Roflcopter. Sensing that there's going to be quite a bit of roaming, quite a bit of flanking here from Roffle, especially above, and see how it plays out. That's why you have Immerin on the Nomad and Geo on the Jackal, and being able to try and counter this from Roffle. Stressful round though. Really, when you put things into perspective, guys, you lose this and suddenly Roffle just inch closer towards getting those 7 rounds. It'll put him up to a 4-2 half. It makes Wildcard and it puts them into a bit of a hole. Big round coming up to close this first half.
Roffle on this occasion investing a lot more actually on the western side, so they've read into how Wildcard want to attack this site. They haven't put the shield in theater with the ADS devices like we saw earlier, and maybe Wildcard will call that bluff and now go for the clear up above, or maybe they'll try and take that same pack head on. Difficult to tell at the moment, but Boydie for sure attempting a spawn peek over towards the DJ deck. Now he doesn't really find much, but still applying a little bit of pressure, and keeping Wildcard on their toes, who again, based on their spawns and early position, probably be going for a similar sort of sweep to their last attempt.
But that just shows the mentality of Boydie. He's 0-4. He is struggling individually, but he still goes for those sort of plays. He still tries to make something happen where he can give his team the unexpected advantage to close out the first half. Doesn't obviously find anything like you said, but just shows the difference in mentality. I know if I was 0-4, I'd probably go find a corner and just sit in it and hope and pray, but still obviously on the attack and still with that killer mentality. Under 2 minutes left though. Wildcard a little bit slower this time around compared to the previous round in making their way in, and Roflcopter are just about everywhere. Bouncing has been everywhere. That was OJ, I thought. Actually, it was, yeah. So OJ got that kill onto Veloska. I'm just surprised. Another 2-man advantage. 3. It's just all over. Inside of 30 seconds. Roflcopter have been able to find 4 kills onto Wildcard, and they are looking like they will take a 4-2 lead in the first half. Vinny will need an ace. He's got 2. 3 more to go.
Could we see 2 aces in a row? It was OJ previously over towards Hookah to close out that round for Roffle, but this would be arguably an even bigger performance here from Vinny to bring this one back. There's about 40 HP remaining and some utility, so it's not impossible, but it's going to be very, very challenging. He has a drone to work with, and he's going to make sure that above is clear. Now, of course, we have the beauty of seeing the outlines, and in fact, it is well and truly clear, and Vinny, sooner or later, will need to try and go for the drop. He doesn't have the diffuser in hand, so he probably needs to go for picks, and that's going to make his life very, very tough.
Yeah, and this is where Roffle need to sort of play off each other. If they're all separated and you allow these 1v1s to happen, it makes things a little bit easier for Vinny. Although he is extremely low. He won't be able to get into any sort of trade. 20 seconds left, but seemingly like it's a monstrous task. He doesn't have diffuser. It's a mile away. Now just drops into toilets, and then we'll have to push through servers into kitchen. And Ruffle all well positioned here. There's not much that Vinny can do. There's not much he really could have expected him to do. Other than pat his stance a little bit, which is exactly what he did. He got 3, but in the end, it all just comes undone. Roflcopter, they fly high in the first half with a 4-2 lead. Welcome back to OCN, presented by Samsung Ort. An opening half for Roflcopter. When you consider the stakes that have been set beforehand, guys, it's do or die, have to win, have to get all 3 points as well to get into the playoffs. And they've come out swinging, and they looked good in that first half, but now we switch and we see, is it going to be a defender-sided coastline?
Maybe, with that Thatcher Flores taken off the board. I didn't think it would have that much of an impact. And honestly, I don't think it really did there for a lot of Wildcard's issues. We were seeing them, honestly, just struggling to win ones. It came down to that simple fact. And time after time, we saw Wildcard take on pretty similar defensive efforts or setups, particularly over towards Kitchen. On both occasions, they went for that map sweep, and it really did not work out on the horizontal take. So, who knows? Will it be defender-sided? We're seeing a pretty aggressive extension from Wildcard over towards Theatre and Bedroom on this occasion. Ruffle, what will they bring to the table here? As you mentioned, they know that they need the full regulation win. They cannot afford any lapses in concentration. If Wildcard get to round 6 or win 6 rounds, then they know they can't make it. But OJ kicks things off beautifully here on the attacking half to drop Pat.
And that's where what Roflcopter was doing in that first half was so impressive. They were finding those opening picks on the defense. Now, it might seem easy, but you can see there what the attack can also do is really punish those defenders who are trying to be aggressive and trying to find picks. And ultimately as well, if you're going to be just sitting on the rappel like that, it's hard to also get picked back. So Roflcopter, they don't even get traded out. It's a 5 versus 4. They've got the one-man advantage. And Wildcard need to be careful on any sort of roam now. Anyone that's roaming around, they're at a disadvantage now for the remainder of this round. 2 minutes to go, though, plenty of time. But you look at a player like Milo inside of security. Who's going to trade for him? No one. If he gets pushed on and dies, it's now 5 versus 3.
Oh, gee, Campo actually lighting up Gio there from down below. Now, Gio was inside of Theatre, and I think the wall did block a lot of that shrapnel, allowing him to survive. Emo Rin elsewhere, though, has gotten an entry in towards Sunrise and finds his first in the round. That's a very, very nice drone from Boydie inside of Hookah, watching the rotate, and he can sit and wait and maybe try and find a pick.
I like how you say sit and wait, and he just starts moving. Immediately. He's on the move. Ants in his pants. Got to get going. Minute 20. 4 versus 4, though, of course, we saw. Emo find that kill a few moments ago. I think it's going to be go time for Roflcopter. OJ just storms his way in. Nice headshot onto Emo. He can cover for Hotshot, or Hotshot has to cover for him. Dies immediately to Vinny. Boyd, they're watching with a pretty decent cross, and OJ will be able to get this diffuser down. That's pretty big in the round now for Roflcopter. Big kill as well from Campo onto Gio. That gives Ruffle not only the plant down, but they got the man advantage.
OJ on the rappel in a great position here. Will basically force the jump out here from Wildcard. So to bring this round back, going to be very, very tough. Now maybe Vinny can get something going here inside of Sunrise with 25 seconds left, but it's very unlikely. And there we go. He gets shut down, leaving Milo at cool vibes.
Defenders have eyes on the diffuser.
19 seconds left. Moloska. This is not going to be possible, not feasible, unless Ruffle make a mistake. He tries to fake it, but it was never going to happen. And OJ has just been a menace. What a start to the second half for Roflcopter, guys. They are on a tear right now. And they edge just that little bit closer towards a coveted playoff spot.
Ooh, I love that round from Ruffle to use the Gon 6 to that effect. Instead of clearing utility or anything like that, they set themselves up. They must have known that side was clear, probably off the back of that Boydie drone that we saw there inside of Hookah, and went, lads, it's time to send it. Let's get this plant down. They had beautiful post-plant positions already established. Boydie on the rappel, for example, and the rest of the team quickly adjusting where they were to be in a really good position as well. And that retake was basically going to be impossible from that position. So really, really well played by Rofl, and they are really putting their best foot forward to win this matchup. And one more round for them would be a really significant safety net.
5-2 lead for Roflcopter. They need 2 more rounds to secure themselves a playoff position.
10 seconds
Now, of
to go.
course, they can only get into that 4-5 spot. Can't get any higher than that. And when I say 4-5, I mean technically they will finish 5th. And they will have to run the gauntlet. But what they showed us in stage 1, guys, they can run the gauntlet. They can knock off a few teams above them along the way. It is a possibility of this team.
Potentially. Vinny on the Ella getting aggro here over towards the trolley window inside of Sunrise, and he gets completely shut down. Boydie finding himself very nicely in this matchup. It doesn't feel like too long ago we were looking at his stats and he was still dropping a donut back on the defense, but he's really got the ball rolling here on the attack. Rofl, so strong on the entry, whether it be on the defense or now the attack, and Wildcard definitely struggling.
Marin, though, does find another kill back for Wildcard. They are struggling, though, yes. Down 2-5. Moloska has been very quiet in this game, but he finds a kill, and they needed him to find one the most. Boydie just gets eliminated there after having a bit of a nice little run there. I think he went 3 kills in a row before that death over the last few rounds. Just under 2 minutes still to play out, and we've already had 3 deaths. It's 4 versus 3 in favor of Wildcard. And this, you would assume, guys, should slow the attack of Roflcopter right down. It's only the 3 players. There's still a minute 40. They'll probably slow it down, suss things out before making their push.
Bansom will activate that Inox scanner to try and see if the coast is clear. Now, Emirin's inside of lobby and Milo's ready to swing that security door if needed. So that's going to be a very precarious entry. Bansom realizes that, falls back, and should be able to link up with the rest of the team. One of which is inside of Sunrise, and OJ on the Lion. Rotating over towards Serves, and it's another free pick. So that's at least 2. I mean, the only 2 from Rofl in this round that we have seen, of course, because Pat and Vinny are the only 2 that have been dropped. And on both occasions, they were caught sleeping. OJ gets another in this round, and Rofl are just tearing Wildcard apart.
That's OJ that's tearing them apart single-handedly, 13-5. A monster performance from OJ. I remember the nade, but this might be another round gone. Nice headshot onto Bouncing, but guess who? It is OJ having a big game right now for Roflcopter in one of their biggest games.
Oh, he's loving it too. You
Match
can see.
point, and guys, it's playoff point.
This is a huge, huge round for Rofl and for Wildcard, as you mentioned. Rofl 1 round away from making playoffs, and oh, wow, it has been rough goings for Wildcard. As I mentioned, the first 2 picks on that round were 2 Wildcard defenders just completely caught off guard, shot in the back of the head, no opportunity for a response, and that is putting a lot of pressure on the rest of the team to step up. I can't help but feel it's probably also a source of frustration, these players getting killed without having any idea that it's coming their way. Very difficult to deal with, and now Wildcard find themselves in one of the most difficult positions we have seen in a long, long time. Now, yes, of course, stage 1 was tricky, but they knew heading into that stage it was going to be rough. Now, in stage 2, they're still finding life tough, and now they're 4 rounds away. They have a 4-round deficit that they need to catch up on. 4 rounds in a row is a tall, tall ask, considering how well Rofl are playing at the moment.
You do have to question Wildcard a little bit here, because this is an absolute stomp. Without taking anything away from Rofl, without taking anything away from OJ's impeccable performance, Wildcard just look a shell of themselves on, say, other maps like Clubhouse, for instance. You know, like, it's night and day.
Attackers
here
are
on
moving
Coastline. And
to
that's why when we saw the map vetoes immediately, guys, I was like, oh, Rofl should be happy with this. And it has played out in that fashion here. It would take one of the greater comebacks that we've seen in OCN history for Wildcard to bring this one back, just simply with the way that Roflcopter have been playing. If they are to do it, though, they must now win 4 rounds in a row. And if they can do that, guys, Wildcard only need to get to OT, so that's it. They need to win 4 in a row, or their stage is over. Drone captured as well, by the way, if you just heard that.
Bullseye.
Bullseye.
Probably the least amount of action we've had in the first minute of a round. As I say that, they've been getting lit up inside of office, and he is a key linchpin here for the attack. Rofl will want to clear him out, and they've already inflicted quite a bit of damage. Vinny needs support from his team if he's to hold on.
It's going to be Campo's Gemini shot out. OJ again, he just can't be stopped. I mean, the whole team can't be stopped. 3 versus 5. Roflcopter are just making this look too easy. OJ is on something else right now. 16-5-3. Clearly wants to have a nice little chat with Dev Marta during the week. If he wants that MVP, he is certainly the front runner. Of course, it is only the first game of the night, but this is over. This was not a contest at all. This was a slaughter. It's going to be 7-2, and it's going to be Wildcard stage over.
Hotshot finds another, and now Pat is in the 1v5. It looks dire, it looks impossible. Pat, this is the most difficult position he has found himself in. He needs to find 5, but he can't do it.
It's devastating for Wildcard, but it is ecstasy for Roflcopter. They will go to the playoffs. They are into the gauntlet for the 2nd stage in a row. Fly high, but not too high.
Wow, Rofl came out to play today. You can see the relief on their faces. OJ in particular stoked with that performance, and rightly so. He absolutely popped off, and it is a 7-2 victory.
Wow.
Which is just absolutely insane. That does 100% lock Rofl in now for the top 5 for the gauntlet, and it sends Wildcard packing. Now, Dev was telling me earlier that this is since OCN 2020, when Wildcard managed to win, they have not made a single playoffs, whether it be APAC South or Oceanic Nationals. That is just how tough Wildcard have been going through it at the moment. So, I mean, maybe the road to recovery is longer than we expected.
I think the other part of this storyline, and one I want to focus on here, is just the performance from Roflcopter. This was do or die. This was going to be a difficult match, and they made it not a difficult match. They made this look easy. This was like we just got a little bit of an insight into a scrim session, because they just absolutely wiped the floor with Wildcard. This was so convincing, and this is what you come to expect from Roflcopter. They are capable of this sort of performance. They can't do it every single night, guys, but this is what they are capable of. This is a team that finished 4th in Stage 1, that had a very, very good gauntlet run in the playoffs. They 2-0'd Order, they 2-0'd Team Bliss, and they went the distance with the Chiefs, the ultimate stage winners. This is a team you do not want to take lightly, and for Wildcard, they're just not on their level right now.
Yeah, Rofl in this particular matchup, we're just so incredibly sharp, and on a map like Coastline, which rewards aggressive play and denying map control, it played perfectly into their hands. Almost every player from Rofl was outgunning their opponents. I'd say that the only 2 players that were really stepping up for Wildcard on occasion were probably Geo and Vinny on a couple of occasions, but on most of those, the round was already over and he was trying to clutch it up. So just across the board, Rofl looking incredibly, incredibly strong and confident. Sure, that was their downfall, probably for the 2 rounds that they actually ultimately lost, but in the long run, it paid dividends. And every single round came to a trade out, as you can see there in the round history, all 9 rounds, and that did favor Rofl, who were just popping off consistently.
First ball rounds were obviously a little bit back and forth. It was a 2-2 start, and then from that point, Roflcopter, they put the foot on the throat. Leading the way was OJ, 16-5, +2 on entry, 100% cost, a 2.68 player rating. He leads the way for the MVP of the week already. After the first game is concluded, it's going to take a big effort to overtake him tonight. So whoever's going to be playing later on tonight, guys, they're going to have a better game than that, which is hard to believe that will happen. For Wildcard, though, where do they go from here? They're not in the playoffs. This is the last that we're going to be speaking of them for quite a while. They obviously didn't succeed in APAC South, didn't succeed in OCN. Veloska's come in. He had a great start to his life as a wildcard player, but maybe over the last week or two has just started to, fall off a little bit because he had such an amazing start. And honestly, more so just falling in line with the rest of the team, which at the moment is just quite average.
Yeah, it's very, very rough for Wildcard. We expected them to bounce back in Stage 2. Now, it was always going to be difficult heading into this stage. Were they going to rebound enough to make it into the gauntlet and enough to go deep into that gauntlet? Ultimately, that question has been answered. It is no, they weren't quite good enough here in Stage 2 to make it in towards the top 5. That does arguably put them under threat a little bit when it comes to promo relegations. They are still a fair way above Allophone Rhythm, so it's not completely dire for them by any stretch. But Stage 3, I think the pressure's really going to be on Wildcard to respond. They need to start stepping up and making these playoffs.
It's going to have a chat with the man who played like MJ. It was OJ this game. Roflcopter's star, man, what a performance. That was obviously a good performance from you. But as a team, that was a collective team effort in a do-or-die match, playoff position on the line. You guys just looked amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously wanted to win, make playoffs. We've had a pretty tough season, but it's good that we got it done. Yeah, dude, so many storylines from that game. Like, we haven't scrimmed that map in like a good 2 months. We just decided we'd have a go at it. And yeah, I think fortune favored us.
Yeah, OJ, I just want to dig into your stats a little bit. Heading into tonight, you were going, I believe, 43-49, so it wasn't like you were the star fragger for the team, and I think you were probably playing more of a support role. Obviously, tonight you were just popping off. What was the mentality behind that? Was that the intention, or did it sort of just happen that way?
The intention for me, is always to try and enable my teammates. It just happened to be that on that map, I was just following drones kind of thing and just getting some picks, which is nice. On most maps, I am probably like IGLing, support kind of stuff like that with Hot. But yeah, just something happened tonight, and I guess I just got a bit lucky that I won my ones.
It's interesting you said that you guys feel like you haven't had that great of a stage, which I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I think outside of the LFO performance, if you look at that and you take it out, everything else has actually been pretty good. I mean, obviously, you lost against Bliss. Every team has lost against Bliss. Outside of that one as well, then, you've won 4 games. You've got another plus round differential. It's been a really good stage. It was just really that LFO performance, and that was yonks ago. So really, when you think about it, you guys are actually coming into the playoffs with quite a bit of form.
I mean, we do have high standards of ourselves, and to lose some of the games in the fashion we were losing is really tough. Couple just small internal problems start to weigh up, and if you I guess we were riding that high of coming third for a while, and then when you're not competing at that level, it starts to take its toll. So I still reckon that we made playoffs, we just scraped by, but we definitely know we're capable of a lot more, and now we've given ourselves the opportunity to run the gauntlet again and hopefully go a bit deeper.
Yeah, just touching on that quickly, OJ, of course, best of 3 format for the gauntlet. It plays itself a little bit differently. Are you confident that you can make a similar run to Stage 1? Is there any team maybe in particular that you're looking at as being a bit of a threat?
I mean, every team's a threat. We love BO3s a lot more than BO1s. But we're in a region with some pretty decent teams that we reckon we can still stack up well against. I guess the informed team at the moment would be Bliss. Obviously, there's a bit of a storied rivalry there, so I think they're first. So if we get all the way, there'd be nothing I'd like more than a best of 5 against them.
Another playoffs awaiting you guys as well. Any final shout-outs that you want to give? Any potential orgs that might be listening?
Not really. Shout out to my team. Shout out to Bouncin'. You'll know why. But yeah, nah. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for coming in and having a chat with us, mate. Brilliant game. Best of luck in the playoffs.
Thank you, man. Take care.
Well, they are flying high at the right time, Guz, obviously, throughout the stage. There's maybe been some little dips, but ultimately, you want to be playing your best Siege heading into the playoffs. That's what they've been able to achieve, absolutely brushing aside Wildcard. They made them look second-rate, and again, they're taking some really, really solid form going into the Gauntlet.
Yeah, and I'm glad that OJ himself has outlined that story of the little Bliss rivalry. I guess we got a bit of a taste of that. I believe it was on Cafe when they versed each other in the regular season. A bit of banter in the old chat on the Twitter post match. So I mean, there is a possibility where if Roffle make that miracle run and we see them face off in the grand final, that could be very, very exciting. And Roffle, casting our minds back to stage 1, they made a bit of a miracle run in that Gauntlet format. Now, of course, they didn't manage to go all the way, but you never know, a couple of steps further and they could make it.
They certainly could. We're going to go to a break. On the other side, though, still 3 more games. None bigger than Knights versus Order.
Seconds to go. Drop the bomb. 5 seconds left.